Hello there, and welcome to another Cigar Advisor Cigar Review panel, Cigar Review. I'm Gary Korb, Executive Editor for CigarAdvisor.com, and today we're going to be smoking the Siboney Reserve Maduro by Aganorsa Toro. Now, this is one of 4 sizes in a brand new Siboney collection, which is also exclusive to Famous Smoke Shop. So, let's meet our review panel and get smoking. Right now, we need to walk a mile for a Wawa pretzel. Let's say hello to Jared Gulick.
I wouldn't go near a Wawa right now.
Yes, you would. I know you would.
No.
No mitigation is going to ruin his probation. It's John Pulo, our managing editor.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure to see you all.
Thank you. And as you can tell, we're doing this remotely via Zoom. And let's get the stats on this Siboney Reserve Maduro, first of all. This is a 6x52 Toro. It is box pressed, and the wrapper is a Mexican San Andrés Maduro, which I love, as you all know. And I've already lit it up, and I'll tell you, it's really well built. It's got a really nice triple cap on here, and I'll tell you a little bit about the pre-light taste in a minute, but let's talk about the rest of it. Inside is all that beautiful Aganorsa estate-grown Nicaragua leaf, and it is rolled in 4 sizes. As I said, we're smoking the Toro today, and it's box pressed, and also they have a Robusto, which is box pressed, but they have a Lonsdale and a Rothschild, which are not box pressed. So if you like box pressed, go for the Toro or the Robusto. And these are presented in boxes of 10 cigars only. And the price for this cigar is really impressive. It's well under $10. It's $8.50. That is the retail price. But if you buy a box of these at famous-smoke.com, it'll only cost you $68.99 right now. So, and a 5-pack will cost you about $34.99. So they're very, very affordable. They're made only for Famous Smoke. And just another little thing about them. Last year, Siboney Reserve came out in a regular, the original model, which had a Nicaraguan Corojo wrapper on it. And that is also, of course, exclusive to Famous. And that was a big success. This is the follow-up. It's the Maduro. And I just, we all had a baseline sample. I got a pre-light taste of kind of like that coffee and cocoa note thing, like you get sort of in a Padron. How about you guys?
Well, I'm definitely getting some like coffee, some, it's got like a little bit of nuttiness to it. There's like sweet earth and some peppers. Definitely a lot of pepper.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
It's interesting. I took copious notes as far as a lot of the things that are especially happening in the very beginning. And what I found as far as some early flavors, I think a lot of those same kind of sturdy tastes up front that you're talking about, although mine are more centered around wood and so there's something a little sweet to it, like that dark chocolate that's probably coming because it's obviously being a Maduro. But, what's interesting is if this is front loaded, it's not with the really spicy stuff.
No,
front.
It's not. I agree with you there. I'm also getting like, I just lit it up, as you can see, and I'm getting kind of like a very woody taste too, with a little bit of sweetness, maybe even sweet wood, you could call it. And it's also a little peppery, but it's not, like you said, it's not front loaded. It's not hitting you with all that pepper way up front.
Yeah. And what I have found out is you give it a few seconds. So I'm probably about heading towards a half an inch or so. And it's starting to round out. That chocolatey sweetness is still there. The cedar is still there. It's adding kind of a leathery bit of taste to it too. So some drier flavors, but they're a little more, let's say they're rich, dry flavors with a little bit of sweetness underneath, which is a really nice way to start this smoke.
I would agree with you 100%. Jared, how about you?
So, it's weird that you say that you're getting these chocolate notes right now, because I find them to be more in like a second act type of thing. I get a little bit of dark chocolate, and I do find it to be a little bit front loaded, but I would agree with you that it's not, I will say that if you smoke one of the smaller sizes like the Lonsdale, that's really front loaded, but it's also a smaller ring gauge. So that lends, to that more often. But for me, I would agree with you mostly, but I'm probably getting more pepper than you seem to be. But I think that's just a matter of taste,
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned the pepper, because whereas the dark chocolate seemed to be a second act kind of thing for you, the pepper is a bit of a second act thing for me. And it comes in but it's not one of the base flavors. It doesn't really establish itself as one of the main components. So if you're, so that makes it kind of interesting. A Nicaragua Maduro, but it's not super peppery, at least right at the start.
No.
I can see you halfway on that. I think we have this like polar opposite thing going on, but I know exactly what you're talking about, just in reverse.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still getting like, well, it's funny because we're smoking outside and we normally don't do this, right? So I think we're getting kind of a different character or flavor profile in a sense, because I know I always do. I think cigars taste differently outside. I get more of a floral note when I'm outside for some reason off the cigar, and I'm getting kind of a dry finish too, John. Is that what you were alluding to, with like a dry finish?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because you're looking at leather, that's kind of a dry taste. The chocolate is kind of a dry taste. The cedar, it's kind of a dry taste. The finish is kind of medium, but it doesn't linger too long, but it's nice, and there's nothing overpowering about this.
Yeah,
Well,
I would
there's
agree
not
with you
right
guys on
now.
the dryness. I keep going back to my water bottle, so if that tells you anything, you guys are on the money. So
Okay. Jared, now you say you smoked the Lonsdale too?
I did smoke the Lonsdale, and it's like Jekyll and Hyde, man. Jekyll and Hyde. Like
Oh.
I literally texted Pulo when I said, I was like, dude, this is like habanero peppers, man.
Really?
It's like it was extremely intense. But it might have just been my sample, because I talked to one of our guys in purchasing, and he said it wasn't that strong. So I might have just had a super loaded sample, and someone slipped some extra Lajero in mine or something. I really don't know.
That's another thing, it's whenever that happens to me, I do the same thing. I say, hey, did you smoke the cigar? And what did you get out of it? 'Cause, I don't know what I'm getting here, I'm getting this. Did you get the. So that's pretty common, I guess, with a lot of cigars. But Jared, now you also had the Siboney Reserve, the original too. How would you compare
Yes.
this to that one?
I would say this is less intense. I think there's even more wood notes in the original. Like there's a lot of cedar and earth. There's some salt and pepper notes that are in there, and the sweetness on the cigar is fainter on the original Corojo wrap cigar. So I would say less intense and sweeter are the two main focal points as opposed to the original.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's weird. I do remember it's funny because this has the San Andrés wrapper on it, right? And I do think I recall the original Reserve being a little sweeter too, but this has a ways to go yet. So, but I am getting a little bit of sweetness. I'm getting mostly, I guess it's still mostly woody and leathery for me. And I know what you mean with that dark chocolate. There is like that little sliver of like a chocolate.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of coffee. I'm telling you, I'm getting a lot of coffee. But I think that's what the dryness is coming out for me. It's kind of like that dry coffee grain type of flavor. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't know if it's the power of suggestion, but I can kind of see where you're going with that. And what's interesting is, Gary, I went back to your original hashtag no smoking when you did the original Siboney Reserve. And it seems like a lot of the flavors we're talking about, they're the same. And I think a lot of that has to do with the core blend being primarily all Aganorsa tobaccos. And the only real difference is if you liked the Siboney Reserve original, and then you just give it a little bit of a sweet tweak with the San Andrés.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Exactly.
I'm really enjoying this a lot, actually. The wrapper is really not, it's not that toothy. Do you notice that? It's actually kind of smooth. And
it's very smooth. Yeah.
The tooth is there, and you know what? I took a couple of close-up photos, and it's very, very fine. You know how you'll look at a broadleaf and you'll see that it's really a lot of raised bumps. I mean, some broadleafs are like reading Braille, for God's sakes. But this think really super fine grit sandpaper. I mean, it's smooth. It's there, but you really got to look for it, and you really can't feel it in your fingers.
Yeah, I could like rebuff my guitar with this pretty much, So
yeah, this is the finished coat sandpaper.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I was just looking at some of my tasting notes from the base sample here, and it looks like I was also, and I'm because this reminded me to look at it. I'm getting kind of, I think Jared, you related or you referred to. You mentioned coffee grinds, like a coffee. Right. I describe it as coffee grinds. It's like a very fine, kind of like at the bottom of the cup, that kind
It's
of.
almost like the smell of
coffee flavor.
like fresh coffee
Espresso, maybe?
grounds. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
almost just like the smell of it. It's that taste. It's very good.
John, what would you say would pair well with this cigar?
Well, that's an interesting thing, I mean, with such a large volume of woody flavors, I would actually, this is kind of more of a beer drinking cigar to me. And I would say if you're a beer person, put this with a stout.
Okay.
Because a lot of time, low ABV stout, it's got some sturdiness to it, but it's still kind of got that dark chocolate sweetness. If you're not a beer person, then I would probably go with some kind of I'd try whiskey, but you know how some whiskeys have a very woody finish, or that you really have that cask taste to it?
Yeah.
That would be too much. So you probably have to find something that's a much more subtle whiskey that doesn't have a lot of that cask or oaky taste to it, and something, really, really smooth. And I think that would complement this really well.
I was even thinking like bourbon. I think bourbon might be a good pairing with this.
Well, it certainly would bring out the sweetness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I was going to say bourbon myself. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No. I think that's something that we can all agree on. That's good. How's the burn going for you guys? I mean, it's a little windy here in the garage, so I'm getting a little uneven, but the ash is really nice. I mean, it's nice and firm. You can tell.
I don't know how in focus this is coming in, but I'm spinning the
it pretty
cigar,
well.
and it's like perfect. I can't believe it. But I'm also kind of sheltered from the wind where I'm at, so it's not really much of a factor for me. So what's this? This is our first social distancing responsible.
Oh, hold on. I got a police officer here. Is everything okay? If her car's not there, she's probably not home. No, I'm actually working.
This is the best review ever. This needs to make the outtake reel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I don't know.
it ain't a thing until the cops show up.
Right.
I think she's been going to work because her car's been gone like during the day. No, I think she's got a bunch of stuff in the garage. I think she can. No, she lives alone. Oh, I'm wondering if there's some kids in the lady who lives, well, she lives pretty far down, so I don't know. All right, officer, thank you. All right.
All right, we need details.
Someone called the 911 and he thought it was my next door neighbor. But she's not even there, so.
That happened in the store the one time where
Concerned.
somebody dialed 911 from our building, but I think they butt dialed it. So.
Oops.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. Well, I was going to just say is this is our first social distancing panel review. So how is
also the first panel review that the cops have showed up for?
That's right. So we'll have to tell you guys about that later. But so how are you guys enjoying the working from home and smoking cigars from home?
I'm getting used to it now.
Yeah.
I mean, the working part of it, I mean, I kind of found a place that's comfortable.
Yeah.
My son came home from college and he's got classes, so I had to give up my workspace for him because it's actually his workspace.
Right.
So I had to give him back his workspace. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting at the kitchen table upstairs and I'm doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay.
I've kind of decamped to the dining room table, so it's right in the middle of everything. We've got a small house, so it's kind of like in the hub of activity around here. So I'm subjected to whatever's is my 6-year-old has command and control of the TV, so I'm subjected to whatever that comes from this year. The barking dogs and the traffic in this year. It's actually right behind me in this window. So at least if I'm going to be a prisoner in my own home, at least I have daylight.
Yeah, my wife. I told my wife, I was like, Pulo's starting to like this working from home. He might lobby for more, but she goes, "You're going back to work."
Well, we're on 4 weeks and nobody's killed each other yet, so
right.
That's usually the barometer. How did it go? Well, nobody got hurt, so that's a success.
Yes.
Oh man, I'll tell you. Yeah, I guess. Well, my son and I are watching a lot of good movies just about every night, so we're catching up on our movie stuff. And saw a really interesting one last night with Brad Pitt. It's called Killing Them Softly. Came out in 2012. He plays a hitman, And you know who's in it from The Sopranos? The actor who
James
plays
Gandolfini?
James Gandolfini has a
Yeah.
minor part in it. Yeah. But anyway, it was pretty good. But you know, I was just, as you guys were talking, I was hitting on the cigar, and you know, this has a nice volume of dense, creamy smoke, and I like that
Oh
a
yeah.
lot. The draw is like perfect.
It's thick. And it's weird because when I first cut mine, it felt like I was getting kind of like a tight draw, and then when I lit it up, it just opened up. It's so like firmly packed. They did a good job. It almost fools you into thinking it's going to be a bad draw, and then you take your first pull, and it's like, oh, thick, chewy smoke.
Well, I think part of that is because it's, even though it's got that soft box press to it, you give the body a squeeze. It's got some nice give to it. So,
yeah,
mine too. It's drawn extremely well. I'm getting some good smoke off of it, and really, it's just a nice. I'm going to call this a midday Maduro. For a variety of reasons, and we talk usually about who a cigar like this is for, right?
Right.
And so like I would call this a midday Maduro, and I was actually this close to calling this. I was going to say let's add this to our list of Maduro for beginners, our buying guide that we have that's out there. And then what I found though is we get farther down, a little surprise happened when I took the band off, and it was just like it opened the fire.
Yeah.
And it was just boom, a whole bunch of strength came through all at once just towards the end, and I think that might shock an inexperienced palate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
But what I would say, it wasn't so much that it was unbearable, it was super full body or anything like that. The flavors are full, but what was really kind of interesting, while it wouldn't make my list of first time Maduros, if you're exploring them and you've already had 2 or 3 and you're looking to kind of expand your horizons, look at this one next.
Okay. See, it's weird though, because like the more that you're telling me about your experience with the cigar, like I feel like we are looking at each other in the mirror, pun intended, since we technically kind of are, right? But I'm having like the reverse experience, even flavor wise and strength wise. Like I'm finding the strength to be up front. Like how some cigars give you that lump in your throat, right?
Yeah.
I'm feeling that, and I feel it a little bit in my gut. Like I know that there's some strength behind this, but I don't know. Maybe it's just how my palate is taking it. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. Okay.
Well,
no, I mean I had a light lunch. Actually just had a cup of coffee for breakfast. So normally if you have a conventional wisdom is if you have a really hearty cigar, go ahead and make sure you have a filling meal before it. But I haven't found this to be particularly hair-raising or anything like that. Enough flavors to kind of keep it interesting. And, like I said, that little bit of surprise at the end that gives you that punch of strength that we're just kind of like, like seriously, you take the garden hose, you go, and you spray it. It's like, that's it. And then you're getting down to the end. This is really hose.
Yeah.
Strength. It is Aganorsa after all, and it's a Nicaraguan. It's Nicaraguan at its heart. So I mean, I can't say I'm surprised.
I know some people call that the creeper. Creeps up on you.
Yeah.
Well, I smoked the Rothschild first, and that was delicious. And I found that like when I was by the end of that, and that's like a 4.5 inch by like 50, I think. That thing had some strength to it. I mean, it was definonly get's heady.
Yeah, I think the smaller ring gauges for sure.
The flavors just come pouring out, and I'm finding this. I found the same thing with this too. Like once you get past that halfway point, it just it's like just everything's coming at you full force.
Yeah.
How about like for the guys who like a spicy smoke? I mean, you finding a lot of that in here?
I'm not finding a lot of spice. There's peppers, but like I'm not getting like this hot spiciness. But I'm getting kind of like a black pepper, like there. But it's not like, oh my god, it's not that kind of pepper.
If you retrohale, I think that's where you're going to find more of the spice really coming through up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a little pepper on the finish. I'll tell you what, I'm getting a lot of like what they call like that damp earth kind of flavor. It's very earthy to me right now. Yeah, it's just really earthy, which is Nicaraguan. It tends to be a little.
That's
earthy
interesting.
anyway,
that wasn't one that was on my list.
Yeah, I got that. I'm getting that a lot. I got that from the other ones I smoked too.
Scary.
It's a real hard cigar.
So Gary, I'm glad that you mentioned the flavor because one thing that really jumps out about this cigar to me is that, anybody can make a flavor bomb, or not a flavor bomb, I should say, a pepper bomb, right? You can just load it with Lajero, you can load it with whatever, and just make it like, this is going to kick somebody's ass. Let's just make somebody pass out in the lounge. You know what I mean? But to make it flavorful and strong at the same time is not an easy feat, and I think that they've really nailed it with this. Like, I think it's got some body to it, especially at the end, and I kind of have to eat my words now, Pool, because I'm noticing it getting stronger through the retrohale. So maybe that's what you're seeing too. But I think that it's excellent that it's both strong and flavorful, and not a lot of cigars can bridge that gap and balance that act.
Well, I think what's kind of interesting though, like some of the flavors, they're borderline savory. Like it doesn't really overdo it though. So like think soy sauce, right? Or A1 steak sauce. They're like super savory.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. This never gets into that kind of territory. That's way up here. This one's a little more subtle. I think it's it's more like you said, a subtle creep on your taste buds. Whereas if they put this in Connecticut broadleaf, I'll bet you it would attack your taste buds like a Viking horde. But it really would.
Yeah.
But I think because they chose something that was a little more subtle, like a San Andrés, it just, like I said, the flavor kind of creeps up on you. And it's not that there's a large number of flavors. I just think each one kind of gets its turn and really shows through. So that's that kind of.
I'll give you that.
Yes, I would
Absolutely.
agree completely with that.
It's well balanced, and I guess, I don't know, would you say it's complex?
I'd say more balanced than complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all pretty much in agreement on this one. I like that.
Yeah.
But I find that this cigar, I was going to say, John, you said it's an afternoon Maduro, and we're smoking it in the afternoon instead of in the morning, which we usually do. I guess I would agree with you on there, but when I first smoked it, I said, I think it's more of like an evening cigar. It's an after dinner cigar. And I made sure that I had like a sandwich for lunch, like had something decent in my stomach, before I came out here, because I didn't know what to expect, this time. So, but it's definitely consistent, and that's another great thing. I'll say that about all the Aganorsa stuff. It's anything that's made by them. It's just absolutely consistent and absolutely, I don't know if the word predictable is the right word, because I know they're all a little different in their own way, but predictable in the sense that they're going to burn well, they're going to be made well, they're going to taste well. Just.
Yeah. Speaking of burn well, look at this guy.
Wow.
Look at that, man.
That you're holding on to it like that, even with a stiff breeze going on. That's a well-made smoke.
There you go. There you go. Turn it upside
down. The
down.
ash is really firm. It's
it's like it's glued on with duct tape, man. That's what it is.
I'm getting a little drying out from the wind here, but you know what? That's another thing I like about Maduros, is that they tend to hold up better in the wind, for the weather.
Yeah.
They're a little thicker. I like, it's good to have a thick wrapper on it when you're going to smoke in these kind of conditions. But John, what's jumped out at you in terms of this cigar? And Jared said, what hit him? What about you? What really surprised you about it?
I think the flavors, that savoriness bit we were talking about, or it's just like borderline savory. And the fact that it's a Nicaraguan Maduro, but it doesn't bombard you with pepper. But the things, the flavors that they're very consistent across the whole Siboney Reserve line. You have the original Siboney Reserve, and then you have the Siboney Reserve Maduro. The flavors are very consistent. You got the cedar for sure. Leather too.
Very woody. Yeah.
The underlying sweetness is whatever a chocolate chip cookie is without chocolate chips. I guess that would kind of be like a brown sugar, So like if you think about eating a chocolate chip cookie that has no chocolate chips in it, and it's kind of got that kind of a sweetness to it.
It's that light cookie sweetness. Yeah.
And it's really tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is tasty. That's for sure.
Sure is.
I just can't get it to burn well because I found that the wind is it's just not competing well with the wind. But look at this. I mean, I just tried to ash it and it's not coming off, so
wow.
This thing will stand up to the elements. That's for sure. Well, the thing that jumped out at me was how this thing switched gears.
Oh, how so?
in the last third. It just sort of like went, you know, sort of like that V curve that we're looking for.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
kind of like what Pulo was talking about. How it's just kind of like, putting your thumb on the hose.
The hose. Boosh.
Yeah.
I mean, you mess with the dog with the garden hose, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're not used to smoking Maduro, that's why I still consider this. Put it on, make it one of your first 5 if you've never tried Maduro or you've never really experimented. It's a good transition to get from natural wrapper over to Maduro, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also found the now that I'm smoking a second of the Toro, I found that this isn't as sweet as the Rothschild, and maybe I don't know if it's the ring gauge, it's got to be the dimensions.
I think it's the ring gauge for sure. I really do, because even the Lonsdale is sweeter. Like it's basically like getting. I'm not even kidding. Like when if people out there are looking for a comparison, we're not smoking this one for the review, but for like the Lonsdale, it was like literally a punch in the face. And I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way, like you got walloped, but it was just super, super identifiable flavors, like just in your face right there. Really, the best way to put it is just it was sharp, just so sharp and concise, But I would agree with you that it's sweeter on the smaller ring gauge.
Okay. All right. So if you're
I will
looking for
say,
something a little sweeter,
I'm having a hard time forming words because I just retrohaled.
Oh, I don't do
it.
that much anymore.
So that's where the spice is for sure.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with you now that it's getting stronger as it goes. Like I said, through the retro, my God, through the retro is like Dante's Inferno, man.
I'm not even going to
crazy.
attempt that.
Viking hordes.
Yeah.
What is it? What can I compare it to? Like, what have I had that's sort of similar to this? And I have to say, it really reminded me of the Padron 26.
Really?
Yeah, because it's spicy. It's spicy like that cigar is, and of course that's all Nicaraguan. And I just find that it's here's the thing I was going to say too, is that I don't normally like peppery cigars, and this is peppery, but it's not peppery to the point where it's bothering me. It's kind of like kind of like adding to the whole mix. You know what I mean? It's almost like enhancing it a little bit, rather than being like, oh, it's peppery. It's just everything's like so nice in there. It's all so balanced, and that impresses me a lot, that they can do that. And someone like me who doesn't really like a peppery kind of smoke can really enjoy this too.
Yeah. I mean, as far as final thoughts for the cigar, what I can say is that, a lot of us are working from home right now. We are working from home. Obviously, that's why you're seeing the video in the format like this. If you got some extra time, if you have the ability to sit out on your patio in between meetings and stuff and smoke a cigar, this is a perfect like deck or patio cigar. This is just like a really nice. I'll have to agree with John. It's a nice afternoon smoke, just to sit here and relax, especially when it's warm like this.
Actually, I'm starting to get to I guess we call the sweet spot of this thing. It's just about that, just past that second act right now, right into it.
I'm just slightly ahead of you, Gary. Just slightly. Where are you at, Pulo?
Well, I must be going super fast because that's what I've got right now.
Oh, look at that! You're riding the bullet train on this one, man.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know.
It's tasty though. I mean, I'm sitting here. I'm outside. I miss being with you guys. I really do. And
I do too.
Nice, enjoying way to be together again. And we're having a good cigar. We're having a good talk about some of these different things. And that's. I think to your point before, Jared, this enhances the experience, and it's a good afternoon smoke that is just nice and rewarding considering the situation.
Yeah. What it really means is we need to put a deck on the office on the outside. That's what we need to do. Build a deck on the outside of the office.
Well, we'll see about putting that in the budget for 2021.
Right.
I was almost tempted, believe it or not, because I live close to the office. I was almost tempted to go and have this outside on the patio there, but I was afraid the cops might come by or something and say, "What the hell is this guy doing there?"
Yeah, right.
They're gonna throw me out. But there are people there. I mean, there are a few people.
Instead, the cops made a house call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that people are all right down the street. I don't know.
Yeah.
What? So anyway, he said he heard kids in the background. I know there's a lot of kids living about 3 doors down, but
For 99 cents a minute, you can hear the full story of what happened with Gary and the police.
Yeah, upgrade to Cigar Advisor Pro now.
he's a nice young guy. You know, it's funny because he pulled up and he's like looking at me, and I'm going, "What am I doing wrong?" You know?
Yeah, right.
What's he gonna? Is he gonna give me shit? You know? It's like,
Well,
Yeah,
my wife was telling me somebody actually they missed their blinker, and then the cop pulled them over, and then they were just out for a drive, not going anywhere. They were just out for a drive to get out of the house. Got a ticket for being out of the house when they shouldn't have been. Right now, because the county was at a stay-at-home order. It's crazy, man.
Wow.
Unprecedented times.
The street is right here at the end. Like if to my left is the driveway, and then it's a short 2-car driveway, and then it's to the street. And I've been having a pretty steady stream of traffic going all day, and I'm thinking, you know, where are these people going?
Right.
You know,
yeah, that's what I keep asking.
What's to do? You know, but what makes it even more interesting is there's a stop sign at this intersection, but because the cops are out doing like what you're talking about, pulling over people for, you know,
just for driving,
get out of the house drives.
Yeah,
this stop sign doesn't exist anymore. So people are ripping through it at like 40 miles an hour.
That's just
and it's kind of weird. I'd rather them drive around than just run around on the trail, because like I was going down, we had to go down to our PO box, which is down in Walnutport, and we went past the Appalachian Trail, and there was like 40 cars parked on the side of the road. I'm like, okay, that's a great way to avoid this. Just run with 500 other people, you know.
Yeah, I went to pick up my son Monday night, and I was on 78 headed east, and I swear to God, this guy had to be doing 110 miles an hour. He had to have it all the way up. Yeah, I mean,
110.
He was at least 90 to 100. I mean, he was just moving. And I don't know, I guess people are taking advantage of it, but I wouldn't want to be stopped under any conditions. So
yeah,
not smart.
Stay home, folks. Stay home. Stay home.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
so Gary, you want to take us home?
Yes, I do. One more time around, Jared, real quick. What do you think? Yay. I know it's all yay, right?
Everybody knows, you know, every time I smoke an Aganorsa, Terrence gives me a quarter. So, but it's a great cigar. I really love it. I like a lot of the stuff that Aganorsa does. John's falling out of his chair over here. So,
hey man, I know a fanboy when I see one. That's okay.
Yeah, right. So it's a great cigar. Like I said, I'm going to double down on what I said. If you have the opportunity to be outside and smoke a cigar, and if you got a little bit of experience under your belt, take this for a test drive, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Nice. Well, like I said before, I would still call this a midday Maduro. You know, if you're still got your training wheels on and you haven't smoked a lot of Maduro cigars, I'd say put this on, make this one of your first 5. Just be aware that at the end it does get a little bitey because it is Aganorsa after all, and they like to throw you a little surprise at the end. But otherwise, you got some of those nice tastes, cedar for sure, leather, and that underlying sweetness, and that's really hard to beat.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say if you're used to smoking cigars like, you know, the Maduros, Nicaragua Maduros, like stuff coming out of Jewish State or Padron, you know, AJ Fernandez, you know, that kind of stuff, you're going to really like this a lot too. And if you're already an Aganorsa fan, it's a gimme. So
absolutely
definitely giving it, you know, positive review here, and just I'm really a big fan of their stuff too. I'm finding I'm smoking so much stuff that's been, you know, made by them with their tobaccos in it.
It's because they make so much, you know, like they make everything.
Yeah,
just
they've
about,
really done an amazing job.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
they really are. So anyway, remember that Siboney Reserve cigars are available at famous-smoke.com. And for more smoking advice and information, make sure you visit us at cigaradvisor.com. Sign up for our email list and be sure to follow Cigar Advisor on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, if you like this review, please like this video now and subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell to be notified as soon as one of our new videos is uploaded. So that's all for now. John, thank you for coming in. Jared, thank you too. I think we did a pretty good job here today, right?
I think we did a great, for winging it. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, we had a good time. And
we have wrangled technology and made it ours.
Yeah. And I'll
Yes.
just add one thing if I can, just in case
Sure.
people are wondering. Famous-smoke.com is open for online orders right now. So if you want to be able, if you can't get
Right.
cigars locally, go ahead, pick this up, pick up whatever you need. We're open for business, and you know, making sure that we're doing everything responsibly and clean. So
Yeah,
you
and
heard it
it's
here.
very affordable. I mean, this is well under $10, and it's well worth it, believe me. So anyway, grab that Siboney Reserve Maduro if you can. I know you can because they're in stock. And that's all for now. We'll see you in our next review. Happy smokes.